Can everybody see up there just fine? Make sure I'm recording. All right, we're good to go. All right, guys, so today we are going to learn a very powerful thing in coding. So we've already done some loops, right, where we can execute essentially several lines of code again and again and again. Problem with loops is, depending on how we define them, they're going to go through that loop until they stop and they're ready to go on to the next line of code. Well, what if we have something that we want to repeat over and over again, a block of code, but we don't want it to just have to go through a loop every time. We want to be able to call back to it whenever we want. And that's what we're going to be able to do today with functions, okay? I told you guys the other day I was starting to write a video game that I was hoping by the end of the semester you guys would be able to play. It's really based on writing functions that we can call at any point in the game. And as the user of the program, depending on what you input, that is going to call those different areas of code, right? If I was going through just a loop, I wouldn't be able to do that. All right, so we're going to do some functions. And since we've been working in Turtle, today we're going to do some functions in Turtle. We're not going to do all functions in Turtle all together, but we are going to start there today. Okay, so first off, since we're going to be doing Turtle, we need to import our Turtle module, which everybody should know how to do. And we need to go ahead and set up our window for that so it pops up when we are running our program. I think everybody is well versed in that at this point as well. I'm not going to add a bunch of stuff. I'm not going to change shapes or anything, but I am going to make the background color a little different. So I'm going to say BG WN for window, BG color, so I can define the background color. And I'm going to make mine black today. Okay, and you can make yours whatever color you want. Okay, and I'm going to go ahead and make my first turtle. Again, you guys always select your own names. You come up with some really good ones. I'm going with Leo today. I'm going to call Leo from the turtle module. So I use turtle.capital turtle to define this as my turtle Leo. And I'm going to go ahead and set his color so it shows up on the black background as well. So these are all things we've done before, and I'm going to go with light blue for Leo today. Okay. All right, now that's just kind of getting everything started and set up. And then we're going to go ahead, I'm going to put a hashtag in here, part 1, and we are going to say defining a simple function. All right, and then I'll let you guys get caught up and we will write our very first function of the day. Okay, so one of the things we were doing in Turtle the other day is I was having you guys come up with programs that could make different shapes, right? And then I was having you come up with loops that could make shapes again and again and again, right? All right, now what if I want to have a shape that I use again and again, but I don't necessarily want it in loop form? I would like to be able to call upon that shape whenever I need to in my program, okay? Say I'm using a square and I like that square and I want to be able to use it in various places in my screen or my little sandbox, but I don't want to have to write the code to constantly be drawing the square over and over again. I don't want to put it in a loop because I want it to do some things between making those squares. So what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to make a function that would just draw like a square. But in this case, that's boring, and the chapter does squares, so let's do a hexagon, okay? So here we go. We're going to do this. I'm going to write def, okay? Whenever we write def, notice how it turns orange on our screen. That means that this is, it's got a specific meaning to it, okay? So def means that we're going to set up our function. Whatever word I type in next, that's going to be the name of the function. So when I need to talk about that function later, or I need to run that function, all I have to do is put in that function name. I'm going to call this one hexmaker, all right? Hexmaker. And functions always have to end with the parentheses and a colon. At the moment, I'm not going to put anything in my parentheses, okay? I'm going to also make this move a little bit here. At the moment, I'm putting nothing in my parentheses because I don't want to define any parameters. I want this to be a very simple function. Okay, so now I've defined this function called hexmaker. So I need to write the code that would actually make like a hexagon, okay? So I'm going to use a for loop to simplify that rather than write all 6 sides of it, okay? So within my function, we're going to do a for loop, okay? So I'm going to say for I in range of 6, right? It's got 6 sides to it, so I'm going to call that a range of 6. Make sure you put your colon in there or you will get an error, okay? So functions and loops, when we are defining those, we've got to put that colon in there or we won't make sense of it, okay? And now I'm going to make Leo do something, right? So to do this, I'm going to say, Leo, move forward, and I want him to go 75 paces, okay? And then because we're dealing with a hexagon here, we need the internal angle to be, what, Leo dot left. I need it to be 60 degrees, right? Is that right? Or is that my external? What am I doing? Right? I'm just thinking. He's pointing this way, and then we go, yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay. So anyway, I'm going to have him go left 60 degrees. Okay. So what I'm going to write, I'm going to actually go back here, and I'm going to put a little hashtag out here, and I'm just going to say this function will draw a hexagon. Okay. Now, here's what I want you guys to do at this point. If you've not saved it already, let's save this as intro to functions. And I would like for you guys to go ahead and run the program at this point and see what happens. Yeah, it does. So it's going to count through this 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But it's still 6 sides in that case, right? Okay, so did everybody run it? So let's hit F5 here. Make sure you save it. And watch what happens. Did we draw a hexagon? No. Okay, we did not. When we told Python that we want to define a function, Python literally just goes in and it hits that def and it skips over it because it basically is saying, hey, we don't want to read this right now. This is something for later when we tell it to read that. Okay, so that function's there, but nothing was drawn. If we actually want to draw this, guys, it's very simple. Are you ready? I'm going to show you how to do that. All we have to do is in our program call. We call it calling when we want to use our function. We just got to call the function, and it's really simple. All we have to do is say, hey, program, hex maker. That's it, okay? So as this is reading through, what it's going to do is it's going to import turtle, set up our screen, make the background color black, make Leo a turtle, color him light blue, and then it's going to literally skip all of this, and it's going to read hex maker. Once the program reads hexmaker, it is going to go to that function and look at that code and then run it, okay? So if we run it now, look what happens. We get our hexagon, right? Now, I could do that as many times as I want. Every time I call hexmaker, I can just type it in over and over again. Hexmaker, hexmaker, hexmaker. It's going to do it again and again. Now, in this case, we won't have moved the turtle, so it would just keep drawing it again and again in the same place. But I could do that, right? I could say, so if I wanted to, I could like, put a go-to function in here and then type hexmaker again, and it would make a hexagon wherever it went to. Does that make sense? Do you guys understand what I'm saying there? So if I said, hey, I want to move Leo now and go to some other part of the screen, like what if I just want to shift him up a little bit? Okay, so I could do that. I could say Leo, go to, and I could give him some coordinates. I'm just going to shift him up on the y-axis. So I'm going to keep x at 0, and I'm going to shift him up like maybe 100 paces on y, and then type hexmaker again, okay, and run a program, see what happens. And there he goes. I didn't lift up the pen or anything, so he drew a line there. But you can see I called that function again and made a hexagon without having to retype in my code for making a hexagon, right? I didn't have to loop it or anything. I could just have it do that, okay? So that's one of the really nice features about these functions is it doesn't matter where in the program we are. As long as we've defined that function, we can always call back to it. And the nice thing about Python is once it gets to the end of the function, it knows what line of code it left off on, and it jumps right down to it. Okay, some programming languages do not do that. And you actually have to write a little separate set of code that gets it back to where it needs to be. And that's a real pain. So this is where Python is really nice, guys, is it makes functions super easy in that regard. Okay, so let's do a little more with our functions. All right, so I'm going to put a hashtag here, and let's call this part 2. Okay, and I'm going to now say we're going to define a function with parameters. All right, now once we start adding parameters to it, our functions become even more powerful. And we actually wrote a simple, but also, functions can be a lot simpler even than this. We could simply have a function that prints some message whenever we need it to. Okay, this one we actually used a for loop for, but it's good that we're doing that because the more we use those things, the more versatile they become, the more versed we become at it. Okay, so I'm going to move Leo around again, and this time I kind of I don't want to draw a line from wherever he is to where I'm moving him. So I'm just going to start off doing a little bit of maintenance here. So we're going to tell Leo to move his tail up. And I'm going to move into another part of the screen so we can have kind of a clean slate to work with and still work within our same program here. So I'm going to move Leo to negative 200 on the x-axis and 0 on the y. And then I'm going to go ahead and have him put his tail down. So I'm going to put Leo dot down, and we'll be good. Okay, I'm going to hit enter a few times so you guys can see that as well. All right, so this stuff right here, guys, not necessary. I'm trying to keep the screen tidy as we do this, okay? All right. All right, I'm going to add a new turtle now as well, okay? I'm going to make a new turtle called Mike. You guys can make it whatever you want. Go ahead and come up with a name for a turtle. And I'm going to make Mike a different color so we can see who he is. Guess what color I'm going to make him? I'm going to make him orange. Okay. That's right. Right. Yeah. So let you guys get those colors in there. And I'm going to move Mike around too because I don't want him to be sitting on top of that hexagon we already drew. So I'm going to tell Mike to put his tail up. Okay. And I'm going to send him down further in the screen. So I'm going to say, Mike, go to, and I'm going to put him at negative 200 on the x, negative 200 on the y to make as much space as possible. And then I'm going to tell him to put his tail down. Okay, again, we're still just doing some maintenance here. I'm creating another one because what I'm going to do, guys, is I'm going to write a function now that both Mike and Leo could use. Okay, if you look at the function we already wrote, hexmaker, that function is specifically written for Leo because I actually have Leo's name in there. But what if I would like Mike to also be able to draw a hexagon, right? I don't want to have to write another function and then put Mike's name in here, okay? Because I might want to create other turtles that can draw hexagons or whatever. So I want this function to be as open as possible. I want to be able to put any turtle in there that I want to, and that function still works. Okay, so what we're going to do is now we're going to add parameters to our function. So I'm going to define this, and I want to make a hex again, but this time I already used hexmaker, so I'm going to call this one draw hex. Okay, so I'm going to say, all right, definition draw hex. I'm going to hit enter a few times to move this up for you guys. Okay, so I'm defining function draw hex, and this time I'm not going to just put empty parentheses here. I'm going to put something in here. I'm going to put t. Okay, and that t is going to represent whatever turtle we want. Okay, and then I'm going to write the word side. All right, and that's going to represent the length of the side of our hexagon. Okay, all right, so I'm going to end that with a colon. Off to the side, guys, I'm going to put a hashtag. Okay, and what I'm going to say is I'm going to say parameter t is the turtle. Okay, and parameter side is the distance the turtle will move. Okay. All right, so these things I added in here, those are the parameters. I can put whatever I want in there, right? So if I call a function and I say the side is 80, it will draw a hexagon with sides 80, okay? If I call that function draw hex and I say the side is 20, it'll draw one with sides 20, okay? For the t, I put whatever turtle I want in there. So I could put Leo in there, or I could put Mike in there, or any other turtle I create. And so I'll show you how we're going to do that now, okay? All right, so I've defined draw hex, and I'm going to say for r in range 6. I just don't want to use I again because I already used it, okay? So I'm doing another for loop. I'm now going to say, whereas before, if you look up here, I said, hey, Leo, move forward. Now I'm going to say any turtle t, we're going to move you forward. And I'm not going to move you forward any specific amount. I'm going to let the user specify that. So I'm going to say side, okay? So that's how whatever parameter we put in there for side, that's what it'll do, okay? So turtle, move forward, side. We get to define t, okay? All right, and now I'm going to say turtle, move left at 60 degrees, okay? Okay, and that's it. So that's my function I've defined. Now let's use that for something. Okay. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to use Leo. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to call this function I just created. Okay. Draw hex. That's the function. Okay. It will run through this program and draw me a hexagon. Right. But because I included parameters, I have to tell what's going to draw the hexagon. So I'm going to say Leo. Okay. I want Leo to draw me a hexagon with sides of 50. Okay. And then I can run that if I want to and see what happens. And so there's Leo, right? There you see Mike was created. And so Leo just drew me a hexagon with sides 50. Okay. I haven't done the hexagon quick, so I got to keep closing the window here. Now, I could draw hex again. Just call that function one more time, but this time I'm going to have Mike do something. I'm going to say, hey, Mike, draw me a hexagon with sides 100. Okay. So I maybe put a little explanation out here. Okay. So this makes Leo makes a hexagon at 50 paces, right? And this one here, we would be saying Mike makes a hexagon at 100 paces, right? Oops. Okay. So let me kind of walk you through this now, right? So our program, right, Python reads, makes Leo go up, go to 200, Leo down, creates the turtle Mike, sends him to negative 200, 200, skips over this, right? Python moves down, sees a function, skips down here. Right here, we're calling the function. And so the function goes, oh, draw hex. It calls on this. And it inputs these parameters, Leo and 50 for t and size. So the way the program reads this, it says for r in range 6, Leo dot forward 50, Leo dot left 60. But it's a loop, so it goes through again, right? In range 6, Leo dot forward 50, Leo dot left 60. And it does that 4 more times, okay? Once it's done running this function, it jumps right down to the next line of code. It just read this one, so it reads this one. And that says, hey, call that function again, but this time our parameters are different, Mike and 100. So it goes through, it runs this program for r in range 6, Mike dot forward 100, Mike dot left 60, Mike dot forward 100, Mike dot left 60, again and again. So now, guys, we're starting to get out of this linear reading of things. And what we're doing at this point, where we're starting to read things out of order and making sense of it, in computer programming, we call that parsing. Okay? And so some of the things I'm going to start having you guys do is actually numbering on your printouts and drawing arrows where things are going and when. We want to be able to follow the flow of the program when it's not linear. Okay? So that's going to make things a little more complex, but ultimately it really truly makes things easier once you get the hang of it. Okay? So if I run that program, and I mean, did I run it already? I think I did, right? So I can see that, right? And now I'm going to show you that we can also, the nice thing about functions is we can call them anywhere. We can write a loop and call the function from within. So far, I've just done them all the way over on the left, but I'm going to show you that we can do it else in other ways as well. Okay? Do I have time to? What time are we out of here? 6 minutes? I don't know. I think we should call it. Or do you want to do it? We can do it real quick. All right, here we go. Hashtag part 3, functions in loops. All right, I'm going to move Mike only, guys. So I'm going to put him up. And I'm going to make him go somewhere else to give me some space here. I'm going to send him to x50, negative 200y, kind of move him down to the lower right-hand part of the screen. Okay. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to write a loop, okay, and just call in a function we've already made. That'll keep things simpler, okay? This a few times, move that up so you guys can see it better. Okay, so again, just kind of tidying things up by moving Mike around here. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to write a loop for z in range of 4, okay? Make sure I put my colon in there. So I want to do something 4 times. In this case, I'm going to draw a hexagon 4 times, okay? Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to say, Mike, move forward, Okay, and I'm moving forward 25 paces. Okay. Then I'm going to say, Mike, put your tail down, right? Okay. And then I'm going to call on my function here. I'm going to say draw hex. Now remember, draw hex is not Mike specific. It's just open because I put parameters in there. So I want to make sure I call on Mike, and I'm going to make him draw with sides of 50. Okay. So over here, I'm going to say calling the function within the loop. Okay. So I called the function within a loop, and that totally works. There's no problems with that. And then I'm going to say, Mike, move your tail up. Okay. So I'm having him do is in this little loop, he puts his tail down, draws a thing, pulls his tail up, and then it runs through the loop again. Okay? And there we go. That's all I'm going to do. So let's look at what's going to happen here. So it's going to say for Z in range 4. So it's going to go through this 4 times. Mike's going to move forward. He's going to put his tail down. We're going to draw hex. So the program, guys, is literally going to jump up to draw hex here. And we put in the parameters Mike and 50. And so it's going to loop through this 6 times. And then it's going to jump back down here, Mike up, and then it's going to go back through the loop again. Okay, so think about all the directions we're moving here now, right? And then it's going to Mike forward, Mike down, draw hex, jump up to here, run through this loop, Mike up. We're going to go through this loop again. So really, we've got loops within loops here, if you can see it. And then you guys can go ahead and run that and see what Mike does. We've got to run the whole thing, obviously. All right, here it is right here. Boom. There we go. Okay. So guys, this is a lot to digest, and I understand that, right? Just because it's bothering me, I'm going to put the exit on click. All right. All right. Good enough. All right, guys. So go ahead and save that, right? Make sure you're able to print that off so we can answer the questions and things. And when you get it printed off, okay, I'm going to have you do some parsing. So you're going to start to need a pen or a marker. Sometimes multiple colors are nice because we're going to have to start really keeping track of where things are going. Does that make sense? All right. Yeah.